Hi guys, welcome to my channel, and as per usual, remember to like, subscribe, and yeah, let's get into it. So remember, as I said, I'm not gonna be distributing parts of the Unisa module, the Unisa study guide. I'm using the AUE 1501, the 2021 copy. Okay, so on this chapter, we want to quickly just briefly have a chat about risk assessment and audit procedures. What are they talking about when they're talking about risk assessment and audit procedures? So risk assessment is actually a process where you're actually looking at an organization and trying to get a feel of, okay, now this is a business. What form of a business it is? Is it a company, sole prop, whatever it is? Remember, we had a video about that explaining that. It's one of the first videos. You might want to go there and understand how to detect, okay, how is this a business? What form of ownership is this business under? So after you identify or you understand the business that you're dealing with, you also have to identify the areas where they can be materially, where items can be misstated. So basically, remember, you're an auditor, you always have to be skeptical about the things that come to you. So basically, you have to have a distrust with anything that is going to be presented in front of you. You have to verify if things are actually being done correctly and where are things. Where is there a risk or where is there potential that things might go wrong? So you have to look at the entire business and ask yourself, okay, in this business, in this entity, or in this industry that this company operates in, where are the areas where things could go wrong? So you then build your knowledge from there. Then you determine, okay, what is going to be the materiality? Okay, what am I going to look at, or what am I going to be considering as important? What am I going to be considering as less important? What am I going to be considering as important? What am I going to be considering as less important? Then you're going to plan your audit procedures, and you're going to also look at your sample sizes. And I'm going to explain the audit procedures to you. And the sample sizes is entirely up to the team that you will be having and the deadlines that you'll be given. Then you have to collect the evidence. Then you problems identified. If there is no problem, you give an opinion. If there is a problem, then you also specify, you focus more, or you put more procedures on that area that you have found that there is a problem. Then after that, you give us a conclusion, right? You give us a conclusion on what will be going on. So when you come across procedures, when you're talking about the procedures, that is the most important part of this chapter. You have to understand, you collect, you're going to, you have to perform audit procedures, right? Audit procedures, which are going to help you to eventually come up with an audit opinion. So the procedures that you're going to be performing, they are split in two, right? The procedures that you're going to be performing, they're split in two. You have what they call the test of controls, and you have what they call the substantive procedures. So I'm going to start by explaining the test of controls, then I'll explain the substantive procedures after. So from the name that they're giving you, test of controls, meaning you are going to be there as an auditor, and you are going to be testing the internal controls that are there already at the organization. You are going to be testing them to see, is it a good thing, so that you can comment whether it's a good thing to rely on them, or whether they can be improved, or if they are effective. So remember, an internal control is a measure which has been designed by the business to limit risk. So when you're coming to test that internal control, that is test of controls. So you want to see, is it effective? Is it lacking? Or can it be improved? Is it serving its purpose? Or can it be improved? So they're going to explain to you there that tests designed to evaluate the operative effectiveness, right? So you want to see if the internal control is actually effective in preventing or detecting any material misstatements. For instance, if Unisa is going to tell you that, okay, you enter the library with an access card. So how are you going to test that control? You are then going to try and push the door entry without an access card or a student card. So you are now testing an internal control that has already been designed. So meaning you as the auditor, you now have to have an eye which can detect, okay, this is an internal control, 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 this is an internal control. For instance, when you get home, usually there's going to be a gate of some sort, right? So the gate is standing there as an internal control because you want to limit people who can get inside. So when you go beyond the gate, you're also going to come across probably a door. A door is going to be locked. There's going to be a key system. All those things are forms of internal controls of a household to limit the risk of entry by trespassers or unwanted people. So only people who have the remote can access. Only people who have the key can probably enter, right? So now you, as the auditor, you now have to try and gain access. That is you now testing that internal control. Another item that they talk about there is your substantive procedures, right? So substantive procedures, they say these are audit procedures designed to detect material misstatement at accession level. Okay, so if they're talking about accession level, remember what is accession level? Accession level, we're talking about account balances, right? Statements that have been declared by management and those charged with governance. So meaning the management is saying your assets are 1 million, your assets are 500,000, your liabilities are 2.5 million. So you now have to go and test, is it really correct? Is it really 2 million? So the procedures that you are going to now perform there, for instance, you can even inquire from the bank, okay, the bank company ABC says they have a loan with you for 2.5 million. Is it correct? Or can you give us on a letterhead the amount that is outstanding or the amount that is owed to you by company ABC? So you now have to go and confirm all those things that they're saying. So that's why they go on to say it's test of detail, class transactions, account balances, and the things that they are putting there as their disclosures. So those are going to be in 2, right? Those things are going to be in 2. So when you're performing your substantive procedures, you have to inspect, sometimes you have to observe, sometimes you have to have external confirmations, you have to recalculate, you might have to re-perform, you might have to perform analytical procedures. Right, you might have to perform analytical procedures, right? So when you go and you perform inquiry, you're just moving around and asking people. So when you're asking people, asking the director, asking the manager, asking whoever, that is a test of control because that is not a class balance item. So inquiry under thingy is also going to fall under substantive in case where you are inquiring about how probably they calculate a certain item, right? That becomes a substantive item. But one thing that you just have to understand for the purposes of this video is your procedures are going to be in 2, right? Either you're going to be testing an internal control or substantive procedures. Testing an internal control, identify, okay, what is the internal control that has been put in place? And then you now say, okay, is that internal control effective? For instance, they might say that for you to gain access into the factory, you need to access via thumbprint. So you just go and put your thumbprint, which is not registered, and see if you'll be able to gain access. So you have to now test the effectiveness of the internal control. Remember, you can't test an internal control that you don't know how to identify. So you just have to look around, always have an open mind, okay? What is the purpose of people signing before they take company vehicles? Okay, and are the people signing before they take the company vehicles? Are the logbooks being populated, or is everyone signing at security before they get in? All those things that you see, any measure which is there, which has been established by the company to limit risk, is an internal control. You now have to come back and test, is this internal control effective? If not, what could be the problem? Then we have what they're calling substantive procedures. Substantive procedures, we are talking about balances, account balances. which have been stated by management as true, you now have to come back and test them. Okay, is this accurate? Is this complete? And stuff like that. Has it been presented? Has it been classified correctly? All of those things that we spoke about when we spoke about our sessions, you now have to come back and test them on as you perform your substantive procedures. So guys, remember, you can play this again. Send me comments, send me questions if there's parts that you don't understand, and let's meet on the next video. Thank you.